Francisco, a great big welcome to you. How are you?
Thank you very much. Good morning, and thank you very much for inviting me. I'm really looking forward to having this conversation.
Okay, so maybe we could just start by talking a little bit about your role at Telefónica. And also, I think I'm right in saying that Telefónica really was very pioneering as an operator in its approach to data, which of course is the critical foundation to be able to apply AI. So maybe if you could just tell us kind of how you got to now.
Okay, so I think we have been doing this at least since 2016, last decade. So 8 years already in this journey. I think we have reached a level of maturity that is able to say, okay, when we are talking about data, it is not only about data at all. So what we have done is we have created a platform that is called Kernel, that is integrating the four main pillars of our digital services. The first one is identity management. Kernel is not providing identity, but is able to manage the identity of the customer, whatever kind of credential, and whatever kind of service or channel. This is very relevant, specifically in countries like Spain, where the convergence is very, very intensive. We have 10 plus services per contract, and you need to understand who is the owner of the contract and who is the user of the contract, that usually are different people. The second one is API exposition, right? We need to make sure that we are exposing the right APIs. And by that, we don't mean to have a lot of APIs, but just the APIs that we need and that we can reuse. So it's a sort of doing horizontal APIs instead of very vertical APIs that are coming to, at the end, having thousands of APIs that you don't know how to manage in the life cycle. The third one is data management. We need to have the data, but we need to be able to manage data linked to the identity and linked to the API capability. And we need to exploit that data with processes, with algorithms, with artificial intelligence. And that needs to be very, very intricate into the system. And finally, but being the last but most important, is privacy by design. We need to make sure that no matter who is trying to access to the data or what kind of product is trying to access to the data, we always have the right lawful base. So legally, we need to be covered even before any data is touched. So we created this solution at early 2017. We designed that. And we said, well, we have to do this because we need this for our own internal products. We have an internal complexity that, as we are a telco company, so you can imagine that it's not a small one. So we need to solve this complexity. So we created Kernel thinking an OTT solution, completely over the top, that is hiding to the products, services, channels, users, the complexity of our digital capabilities plus legacy capabilities, making all of them to work in a sort of orchestrated manner, right? The project has been evolving because the technology has been evolving quite a lot. So we started using machine learning, then we moved very fast to deep learning, and then we understood, well, in deep learning, we have to put the responsible AI here because we need to be able to explain how the model has been able to reach this conclusion. And today we are in the phase of generative AI, and tomorrow we don't know. So we need to be able to adapt to those requirements very, very, very fast. So today, artificial intelligence is a reality in our operation. We have that running in mainly two buckets. One of them is optimization, reporting, simplification of processes, so making our company more profitable. And the second one is providing capabilities to our services that are making our customers happy. We are hyper personalization of the offering, optimal Wi-Fi at home, security by default in all the processes of the chain. So okay, we understand that those are separated spaces, but the reality is that we are using the same internal capabilities. So yeah, we have been doing quite a lot during all this time, and we think that we will have to do a lot more in the future because of the technology is evolving so fast that there is no way we can be still.
Wow. So one of the things when we were talking before this event that you mentioned was governance. And I was really interested in that because it isn't something that people get very excited about. And yet it's so important. It's foundational to providing digital services and products. And I'm just wondering, how has Kernel looked after that aspect, and how is it integral to customer experience?
Yeah, that's very interesting, because when you are talking about governance, everybody says, "Oh, data governance, this is horrible." And you say, "Well, you can imagine when we are doing data governance together with identity governance, together with API governance, and of course with privacy governance." So we have a more holistic approach. So basically, we can say that we have 3 different levels. One of them is the basic capability. When it comes to data, we can say just the data flow. And data flow can be very, very different. We can have information coming on very specific batch files every single month. Then we have micro batches that are coming very often, that can have every 30 minutes. And then we have real-time data. So the way we manage data, obviously, the governance over there has to be very, very clear. But again, we need to put a layer on top of that, that is the digital privacy. We need to make sure that every lawful base is fully digital, so that we don't have to do anything. No man has to touch absolutely anything when it comes to operating this capability, right? So digital privacy needs to be on top of the data digitalization. And then on top of all of that, we have the exploitation of the data or any digital capability. So we have the products and the services that are running models, that are generating insights, that those insights have to be exposed through APIs to our services, to our customers, right? So it's a sort of combination of things. If you don't have the data flow properly managed, with the identity in place, with all the privacy related to that automatically managed by kernel, then there is no way you can scale up, right? And on top of that, we have responsible AI layers, because we don't want to say, yes, we have artificial intelligence, it's running very well, but to be honest, we don't know what's the impact this is bringing to our customers or to the society, right? So we decided to say, well, we cannot do yet a responsible by design, because the digitalization has not reached that level yet. But we can put some processes that are run by experts in data and in artificial intelligence, making sure that we are not creating products that are not as responsible or as sustainable as we want. ESG is part of our very basic core, and we want to make it absolutely clear. So this is very complex to manage, but the outcome is that it is very easy to operate. Why? Because when we create a product, the product doesn't need to take care about the privacy at all. I gather data, and the platform kernel decides what data I can access. I don't need to have any control on how the privacy has been managed. The second thing is, I can create a service, and I don't have to get concerned about how the credentials are managed, because identity is managed by kernel. If I have one credential, it's linked to some capabilities. For example, if I am the one paying the bill, I can administrate the services. I can see how much I'm going to pay, of course, but I cannot see the detail of how the services have been used, because that belongs to the privacy of the users of those services. And this is something that every customer will be able to administrate. So if I am paying the service at home, but my wife is using one of the services, for that specific service, she will have their own setup, and she will be able to manage privacy in the way she wants, without any impact on me. Can you imagine to administrate all this without having all the privacy digitalized? It's impossible. But running a model or a business like the one in Telefónica Spain, or in Brazil, in Vivo, where we are very convergent, would be completely impossible and manageable. We would have either privacy gaps or service gaps. We didn't want to have any of those. So we have also included Transparency Center. That is the way we allow customers to see very clearly, okay, this is the data we have from you, and this is what you can do with that. You can decide whether this consent is going to be revoked, or if you want to try that service and then you give us the consent, and if you don't like, then you can revoke it in the future. So it's a journey with a lot of very clear proof points. And then depending on how they are evolving, then we decide to go further or just to concentrate on making something stronger.
Wow. So a lot of moving parts and a lot of layers to make a cohesive whole, and also to hide all that difficulty and complexity from the customer. So when I use the service, I don't know that what you've had to do to make it easy for me. It's
Absolutely,
all
absolutely.
all beautifully disguised. Okay, so you just mentioned towards the end that Francisco about how about the evolution of kernel. Could you maybe say some more about that?
Well, it's very complex to understand what kind of requirements we will have in the future, because obviously in the last years, when we thought deep learning was going to be the ultimate challenge to make sure that we are able to explain the models, then LLMs were coming, SLMs are also over there. Well, there are so many things that we cannot control. Today, we can say that kernel is providing a very easy way to administrate everything related to artificial intelligence, traditional artificial intelligence. We could say just creating insights, using machine learning, using deep learning. And what we are doing today is we are connecting kernel to the large language models, to everything that is related to generative AI. A very good example is that we are providing through Azure AI Studio access to any of the LLMs or SLMs that are supported over there. So obviously, ChatGPT, Mistral, Llama, whatever you want to use, Gemini. And then those models will use the capabilities that kernel are implementing. So if we want to get data either for training the models or for enriching the outcome through RAG architectures, you will always be using the SDK or the API that is providing that capability, and that SDK is already filtering anything that is related to privacy. So in other words, and being very simple, we will be able to avoid that LLMs are using our data to train models without the specific legal base for that models to be trained. So if, for example, we need models for which we need the consent of the customer, if the customer has not provided the consent, that data will never get to the LLM. So it's a way of protecting us. Same for RAG models. If one specific data, we don't have the lawful base, or let's imagine legitimate interest, and the customer has said, no, I don't want you to, I am going to opt out, I don't want you to do this, then the RAG model will not, the RAG architecture will not be able to enrich the outcome for the users. So we need to be evolving all the time the platform to make sure that we clarify the path, and we simplify the life to our customers and also to our operational engineers, because they need to have some control on that. That's one of the basic evolutions that we are working on today. The other one is obviously Open Gateway. Open Gateway in Telefónica is 100% based on kernel. The APIs that we are exposing and that we are providing to Camara, that is the forum where standardization is happening, are coming from kernel. The authentication model between the marketplaces and the operators is based on the token exchange that we are already implementing in kernel. So we are dedicating a lot of time together with other telco companies in Europe and in the rest of the world to make sure that we are making the Open Gateway space bigger and bigger, and we are able to bring these digital capabilities to the developers so that they can have better services and our customers can enjoy them in a very safe environment for them. Any data that is protected by us will never be exposed to any third party.
Okay, so we've been talking about telcos, working in ecosystems for a long time. And this is, I don't think, what we were thinking of when we were having those conversations. So it actually has evolved because of AI, or partly because of AI, in a bit of a different way. So just to make sure I understood, because there was a lot of information there. So you're not going to develop and train your own large language models. You're going to use language models, but not develop them yourself. Sorry, is what I meant.
Yeah. So we have not seen yet any specific use case that requires telco companies to be training the models. We see a lot of use cases where we can use the trained models and enrich them with RAG architectures, where we can enhance the answer from the large model with some specific or customized data. But we are not, as Telefónica, planning today to train models inside Telefónica. But even if we decided to do so, the architecture today based on kernel and the integration we have done with the large models would allow to do that, preserving the privacy of our customers.
And you referred to RAG, or retrieval augmented generation there. Could you please just say a sentence or two about that technology and how you see it fitting into the overall pattern?
Well, it's I think the best way to understand this is to one example. So let's imagine we have today something like 20 million CPEs routers at the houses of our customers, right?
Right.
Let's imagine one of our engineers decides to say, okay, I want you to provide me, and it's talking to one LLM. I want you to provide me which are the routers that are having the worst or the best performance in this specific condition. So the LLM will use all the knowledge to understand, to interpret the customer, the user request, and will access to that information. Then that information based on the general knowledge. So, okay, what is a CPE? Which are the standard brands of CPEs? What are the services that are provided by CPEs? Wi-Fi connectivity, Ethernet connectivity, all of this. However, the ones that are in the footprint of Telefónica are one specific ones, okay? So we are using the RAG module to make sure that the information that we are providing is specific for those ones, so that when the engineer is getting the answer, says, okay, this CPE that was built by this manufacturer, whose firmware was updated in the last one, that very well-known bugs, these are the ones that you have to know. And then, okay, this is the status of this CPE, and these are the conditions that under this CPE is running. So you are getting the best of the wall, of the generic wall, of the very well-trained model, together with the specific data that you are using to enrich the outcome. So it's we can do this as complex as we want, but this is a simplification of how this is working. We are augmenting a scenario that the trained model is using with the specifics of our own context.
So is to address a specific set of circumstances and specific issues. Okay, thank you very much. That was really helpful. Now, Francisco, I understand that Microsoft has announced that Telefónica will be one of the operators included in the Azure Programmable Connectivity Service as part of its commitment to Open Gateway, which, as you've mentioned, is with camera is very important to Telefónica. Can you tell us a bit more about how you see this service with Microsoft Azure panning out, its input into the initiative?
Yeah, we have been working with Microsoft for more than 1 year to make sure that we were reaching this point. So basically, what is Open Gateway? Open Gateway is a GSMA initiative in which the telco companies are creating digital capabilities that can be integrated with the applications developed by any company in the world, right? Obviously, we don't have the capability or the reach to get to any developer in the world. These guys are usually working together with the big companies like Microsoft, like Google, like Amazon, like Vonage, because they are using their SDKs and they want to have applications very well integrated, right? So what we are doing is we are enhancing the capabilities provided, in this case, by Azure to their developers, adding capabilities that are developed by telco companies. So, for example, we are able to confirm the location of one customer using the location provided that we are provided by companies. We are on telco companies. We are also able to confirm, for example, if there has been a SIM swap in the last 30 minutes or in the last hour to a bank that is trying to avoid fraud from their customers. So the only way to get to that level of assurance in the applications is by using telco companies' services. But in order to make it at a scale, you need to make sure that all the operators are exposing exactly the same capability in the same way. So that when the application is developed, the only thing that the developer needs to understand is, okay, in Azure, this capability is exploited in this way. And Azure, through this program, is connecting to all the operators where I am running this application so that I don't have to get any concern about if the customer running or camping on Vodafone, Orange, Deutsche Telekom, or Telefónica. That's it. That complexity needs to be hidden. So getting this partnership with Microsoft is very important because Microsoft is one of the biggest marketplaces in the world, and many developers are already working with Microsoft. So by that, we are increasing the capabilities that Microsoft Azure is exposing to their developers, and we are getting potential new customers through these developers for new digital services. It's really important. Microsoft is not the only one we are working with, but it has been the one that was announced at Mobile World Congress this year. Yeah, very happy about that announcement.
Okay, so really that's been one of the most difficult areas for telcos around APIs is that connection with the developer community. And this looks like it's maybe a really big step towards finally bridging that gap. Okay, so talking about APIs, can you say some more about how Telefonica has progressed since Camera and the GSMA's Open Gateway was announced, which was at Mobile World Congress in 2023?
Yeah, well, as I said before, one of our obsessions in kernel was to have as a very small number of APIs for all our digital services, because we didn't want to have two APIs that are mostly doing the same, but it's not exactly the same. So when you have to develop a service, you say, well, should I use API A or API B? No, that's not going to happen. This is the API for profile identification. This is the API for content management. This is the API for contract modification. That's it. So as of today, we have in production in Telefónica for all our digital services only 150 APIs. People that are not familiar with telco companies could say, wow, that's a lot. No, I can tell you it's a very small fraction of the number of APIs that we have as telco, right? And those are exactly the same. So that API is run exactly in the same way in Brazil, in Germany, or in Spain, exactly in the same way. So what we have done is we have proposed these APIs to Camara for the standardization for all the 10 different telcos. The reality is, as of today, we have already in production 14 Camara standard APIs that were previously part of our digital catalog of services, and we are planning to have during 2024 20 more. So we will be talking about between 30 and 40 Camara APIs in production. So if we have to modify something in our APIs because of the consequences of the standardization process, we do it very fast because usually the APIs are very similar. So we are really happy about how we are working on that. It's being 100 and digital native is allowing us to adapt very fast. So to be honest, we don't think that as an industry, appification is going to be a problem. We see that this is the first conversations were very tough because we were talking about digital APIs, not a standard telco APIs. Now it's a business as usual, we could say. We have discussions, but it's business as usual, where we anticipate most of the problems and most of the complexities on the privacy management, because on our APIs are private by design. So this is something that's a red line for us. When we have been able to show that to the rest of the industry, everyone understood, okay, we are solving the complexity of something so harsh when it comes to customer perception. So we need to go there. And this is what we are working today. So again, very excited about all the possibilities in the future, but it's not an easy conversation.
So the standardization, both within Telefonica and for Camera, is all about how to achieve scale.
Yeah.
Because
exactly.
if you have thousands of APIs, it's not going to happen. Would you also say that with APIs, maybe you've got the kind of 80-20 rule where maybe sort of a few APIs do 80% of the work?
Yeah, it's very interesting. One of the most popular APIs is location-related services, confirmation of location. It's not only about confirming that the customer is now or has been in the last hour in this specific area. It's more about all the services related to location. For example, one of the demands that we are seeing to grow faster is drone flight routing. Mm-hmm. Drones need two different things for having a very secure flight. One of them is making sure that the coverage is proper on the area where they are going to move. And the second one is to make sure that they minimize the number of people they are flying on top of, right? So it's that's something that we can help like no other industry, because we know how people are moving and we can minimize the impact or the number of crosses between the drone and the people underneath. So this is one of the areas where we can see a lot. The other one is fraud management in general. So number verify, SIM swap. This is something that banking companies are really asking us. Like hell, we need to minimize the fraud. There are many countries where the level of bancarization is not very high. So anything we can confirm as operator is really very much appreciated. And then we have the usual very technical APIs such as quality on demand. I need to guarantee that I have this bandwidth, I have this maximum latency, and you need to make the network to work in that way. For that, we have capabilities such as network slicing, but sometimes we don't need to get there to provide the capabilities that are demanded by the service. So these are the three main areas where we are seeing most of the movement today. I'm sure that in the future we will see a lot of new APIs related to Web3 management that we are anticipating, because we are also working on Web3. So it's going to be an interesting conversation.
Okay. So yeah, it'd be great to have this conversation maybe in a year and see how things have shifted. So you mentioned Brazil there, and I know that Brazil is a huge market, but it's also one of Telefónica's 4 key markets. And could you say a little bit about examples of how APIs are being used in Brazil?
Yeah, sure. Indeed, it was our first market to launch Open Gateway. It was back in November 2023. We launched that nationwide, but Brazil is a huge country. It's a continent-like country. So we launched in vivo together with TIM and Claro in November last year. And we launched mainly 3 most demanded capabilities. The first one is number verify. That is the seamless verification of the number without any impact in the customer, in the user experience. This is something that we are working with several banks in Brazil, and they are really happy to make sure that they are more protected when they are providing services to their customers. The other one is SIM swap, also working with the same banks, where you need to make sure that if someone is asking to the bank a new capability, the SIM has not been changed in the last X minutes, just for protecting or a thief or whatever kind of duplication. These 2 are already in production. And the third one is location, confirmation of location, especially in a country that is so huge as Brazil. Making sure that the service is demanded where the customer is very, very relevant. So this is what we are working today. We are working on new releases of the APIs that are improving the quality of the service that is provided, because we are in the learning phase. But we are planning to have something like 10 more APIs during this year. So it's really a very, very active and a very creative market in general. It's Brazil. It's really a pleasure to work with our Brazilian colleagues, because they always become new ideas and new demands, and you have to adapt to that. See, but it's really great.
Okay, well, I'm sad to say we're almost out of time, but maybe we could end closer to home with you saying a little bit about plans in Spain.
Well, Spain is a very, very, very active market. It's the competition is huge, and we are very proud to say that last April, just 1 month ago, the same day as Telefónica had its 100th anniversary, we switched off the last copper switch in the country. So today, Spain is 100% fiber based. It means that connectivity at home is massive, and we need to protect that. You may have 1 gigabit per second fiber, but if you don't have the right Wi-Fi, there is no way you can optimize the experience. That way, we are using artificial intelligence to make sure that the Wi-Fi experience is optimal, and working on the new evolutions on Wi-Fi 6 and in the future Wi-Fi 7. This is really This is really a huge opportunity for improving the experience of our customers. And then, as I said before, we are planning to have something like between 30 and 40 API capabilities already in place during this year. The market is moving very fast. Banks, insurance companies, location-related services companies, drone flights, that is sort of exploited now. It seems that everyone is trying to fly drones in Spain. So it's a very, very active market, and being here, it's easier for us to understand that demand and then to adapt the roadmaps to make sure that we are not keeping anything that is relevant outside of those.
Okay, so while we tend to talk about APIs and AI a lot around mobile, in fact, with Spain now being 100% fiber, I guess the competition is really about what you can deliver over that fiber. And I guess that's
Exactly.
where the APIs and the AI are going to play a big part.
Exactly. But it's interesting because you have Wi-Fi, you have fiber at home. So the perception of quality on demand in Spain is not as big as in other countries, because the best effort model is already so huge, it's so good, the latency is so small that quality on demand is not the biggest demand in Spain, because it's already covered by the connectivity itself. We are working more on this location or anti-fraud services. But as you say, we need to make sure that all the services are providing the best experience, that you have the best 4K experience where you are delivering video, that the audio is absolutely great, so that the customers understand, okay, this has a value, and the cost that I am paying is actually paying this value, right? So it's an interesting conversation, yes.
Thank you so much. I look forward to speaking to you again in a little while to see how things have evolved. Thank you very much for your time and input. That was great.
Okay, thank you to you. Thank you.